Hi everyone, my name is Avalon and I'm the Water Quality Field Specialist here at Winyah Rivers Alliance. And today I'm going to be providing you with a tutorial on how to use the swim guide dashboard I just created for our bacteria data. So we're going to start on our homepage, our web page. And access that, you just type in www.winyahrivers.org. So that link will take you to our main homepage where you can learn all about our organization. But for those of you who are already familiar, once you access the main page, you'll see multiple headers across the top of the screen. And if you click on Water Quality Dashboard, you'll be redirected to the Swim Guide Water Quality Dashboard that we'll be talking about today. This may take a second to load depending on your computer size and speed. So just give it a second to fully come into view and just make sure we can see everything on this here. Okay, well, welcome to our dashboard page. The collapsible sidebar on the right of the dashboard gives you a rundown of how to use this tool. But in case you don't want to watch this video again, it's there for convenient use. But once you place your cursor over this blue panel, you can scroll down through the information I'm going to provide you with today. You can also collapse this if you're no longer interested in seeing what I have to say about the dashboard, and you can expand so it's just the map and data. I like that view too. But just to give you a brief overview of what kind of information is in this side panel, I have a bunch of links. We link back to our main page if you click here. Bum, bada, bum. And also to the Swim Guide website, who is one of our partners that we use to communicate this data with all of you. You'll also find links to the EPA's documents about recreational water quality and their bacteria standards, as well as South Carolina's Department of Environmental Services standards. These will both be pretty lengthy documents, but if you're curious about where we get the rationale for our water quality criteria, it is from these two organizations. Let's see. Right now, yeah, like I said, we follow a combination of state and federal agencies' guidelines for single sample bacterias at these recreation sites. Although the Lumber River and parts of our other rivers have headwaters in North Carolina, we don't currently use North Carolina's Department of Environmental Quality standards because they're inconsistent across the state of North Carolina. And most of our rivers are based in South Carolina, so we wanted to follow the state regulations there. As of May 2026, in the swim guide season, Winyah Rivers Alliance considers a single sample of water that contains greater than 235 most probable number of E. coli colonies per 100 milliliters of water, or 104 most probable number of Enterococcus colonies per 100 milliliters to have failed to pass our swim guide water quality standards. As a nonprofit organization, we cannot distribute swim advisories like the state and federal agencies can, but we can help you to make informed decisions about recreation at our sampling sites. That's pretty much everything that this inlay has to say, as well as some layer information and how to download this data, but I'm going to get into that in this tutorial as well. Next up, I want to show you how to control the visuals that you're seeing on the map here. And to do that, we'll just make the map even bigger. Okay, so by default, the most recent round of bacteria sampling is displayed on the dashboard. So actually, these results that you see in green and red, that's all controlled by the dates from June 10th, 2026. And if you were to click on any of these points, you would see a little pop-up appear. Okay, bad example. That one hasn't been sampled in a couple of years. But Highway 52 landing, the last time this was sampled was June 6, 2026. And that's what is controlling the symbology or that red and green coloring. But because the E. coli concentration, as we can see here, was less than 235, the site is colored green. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're looking through these sites. And we'll get into data filtering in a little bit as well. But what I wanted to talk to you about are the data layers. So if you look at this like sandwich tab almost, what pops up are all of the layers that are being displayed on this map. And by layers, I just mean what the data visualizations you're seeing are called. So first up, if you want to turn all of the additional layers off, navigate to that sandwich button, and then you're going to find and select the layer tab. There's also a legend tab, but we're going to start with the layer tab. And you'll see that if you hover over the right side of each of these titles, a little eyeball icon appears, and then some text also pops up that says hide swim guide data or show swim guide data. So you'll probably want to keep that layer on. That's an important one. But if you want to see the most simple version of this dashboard that has less noise visually, then you can turn off the NHDHR flow lines, the land use cover set, and maybe even the water bodies and areas. And what you see is the base map that ArcGIS provides, along with all of our sampling areas, our regions that we cover, the watersheds, and also the swim guide data itself. But if you're a data nerd or you're curious about why some of our sites fail, then I would recommend that you take a look at the NLCD land use cover data set. And what this is the National Land Cover Data Set raster layer from 2024. When you activate this layer, you're going to see a bunch, and we'll scroll in a little bit. You'll see a bunch of pixels that correspond to a given land use. That's where this legend tab comes back into play. So if you select the legend tab, look, we have all this information now about the map. So the NLCD land use cover, every color on this map and pixelated area corresponds to a given land use. So we see we've got some open water here in the middle of the screen. We've got development with this stage of different reds. We have also some cultivated crops, some woody wetlands and herbaceous emergent wetlands. So this kind of gives you a sense of what's happening on the ground if you're not familiar with different sites in your area or you've never had like aerial view of all of them. It's really important for us when we're looking at why some of our swim guide sites continue to fail because areas that are really close to high development, high intensity development, and also like we see up here, like a lot of pasture and croplands, those can definitely lead to more failing bacteria concentrations, either because of higher E. coli standards from septic tanks, from wastewater treatment plants, from stormwater runoff, or in the case of agricultural land, obviously livestock produce waste, and when that waste gets washed off of agricultural land into the wetlands and into the rivers, we tend to see some pretty high fails around those too. You also may be curious about some of the flow lines and the water bodies. These are really just visual tools to help you and everyone who takes a look at this dashboard understand the interconnectedness of our water bodies across all 7 watersheds that we're protecting. And it shows how all of the rivers, streams, wetlands, creeks are connected to one another and also to the ocean. We're in the coastal plain here, a lot of our sites in South Carolina. So the interconnectivity from river to estuary to ocean is a really important part of understanding all of the ecosystems that we work within. So that's just if you're curious about that. What else about this? Oh, also we'll get a little bit into the Winyah River Alliance regions. These are loosely based, oh, put that back up. These are loosely based on the HUC 8 codes that you'll find for hydrological monitoring, but I jerry-rigged them a little bit because not all of them match up exactly. For example, in the GREET PD, the way that this is usually categorized by the state is split up into 2. You have a middle PD river basin and watershed and a lower one. But because we consider some of that area to be the jurisdiction of our Black Sandpit River Keeper, I changed the boundaries a little bit. So you'll see some things. I think those are the only ones that are a little bit off. The rest of them should be following what the state guidelines are for HUC 8 codes, but you'll see them when you click on each of the areas that are encircled in black. Okay, so that's the layers and the legend tab. I think that's all for legend. If you turn layers off, you won't see them in the legend. So that's also something that's important to keep in mind. If you're like, where did it go? Also, there's a mini legend down at the bottom of this map as well that you can scroll through. If you forget, that always is going to show the land use cover and the bacteria data. Those are things that you'll probably want to look at the most. Okay, but let's get into the actual data of this dashboard. So there are multiple ways to view the bacteria data. If you click on any, you know what, I'll turn this off for ease of viewing. If you click on any of these points, like I already showed, this is up around Lake Waccamaw, you'll see that it contains the most recent sampling data and including those bacteria concentrations and also the environmental data. So if you're curious about what the site was like that day, we've got that information. We have tide information and also the bacteria concentration, the heavy hitter. So this was super clean. This had 17.3 most probable number of E. coli colonies. That's awesome. That's a great day for us at Winyah Rivers Alliance. But when we look a little bit further down, one of our landings, Odell Venture Landing on June 10th, had that one was actually clean. Oh, Persimmon Bluff. Well, this date is definitely a long time ago, but just to give you an understanding of that, this one was definitely above the 235 most probable number of colonies. But good to see that this is mostly green. That's a good thing. So that's the basis. Also, if you were curious about historic data and you didn't want to deal with everything down here, you can also click back through time by clicking on these arrows and seeing this site was sampled about 61 times. So we've got a lot of data on this Lake Waccamaw State Park launch. But if you were curious about a specific watershed and you're like, I don't really care about these other six, I just want to see what's happening on the Black River. You can use the river filter that's at the top of left of this dashboard, and then all the results that populate, you'll see that it changes in the data table below. There are 303 entries from May 2022 to now it's June 2026 along the Black River. But I was like, oh, maybe I'm kind of curious about the lynches too. You can also turn that filter on. So you can turn all of these on or off, but then just to get back to the default, you can turn them all off and deselect them. But for the sake of showing you how to work this dashboard, let's say we're interested in the Black River, and I'm only interested in data from this swim guide season. So I'm going to start by putting in the date of that swim guide, which was we sample on Wednesdays. So our sampling date's going to start on May 27th. And I'm curious about seeing until the most recent date, which on this dashboard is June 10th. So what I can see now is just the Black River dates, or rather the Black River sampling sites within this date range. And I'm going to see that populate on this green list at the bottom of the dashboard, the bottom left. And I get a little sneak peek of what this data looks like. If I'm not really curious about environmental data, if I don't really care about the lat longs or the tidal conditions, I just want to see the bacteria. That's what's in this abbreviated version of the list. And if you click on any of these sites, they'll also be highlighted in the data table itself and then back on the map. But also, okay, I want to get even more specific. I'm only interested in Gilland Memorial Park. So if I search for Gilland, it'll pop up. And then I can see that across the swim guide season so far to date this year, there have only been two samplings done at Gilland Memorial Park. And then I get to see all this data laid out in table form within the bottom of this if I scroll through. So, oh, and we've lost it. No, no fear, no fear. It'll come back. Okay, let's reset this. Fabulous. Okay, what if I was also curious about seeing the oldest data? Like, I want to go back all the way. So glad you asked. You can use this newest, oldest selector bar to go all the way back to our earliest data, which looks like it was June 15th, 2022. Nice. And we wanted to further, well, that's going to be shown nonetheless. But if I only wanted to see data from 2022, I'm gonna start here. We're gonna start on the 15th. And we're going to end in August at the end of that swim guide season. And now what's going to populate here are all the rivers that we covered in 2022. So this was before we had programs for the Lynches, the Great PD, and the Little PD. And we'll see all of that data. And that's going to be presented again in this list tab form and then also in the table data itself. But if you were curious and this is kind of a constricting format for you, or you wanted to use this data for your own investigation, for making your own GIS maps, there's an option under the Actions button, which are these four circles in the top right corner of the data table, to export the data. And you can export it to ArcGIS and GIS-friendly formats like a GeoJSON, a shapefile, but also a plain old CSV file will probably do the trick for any software you're using, or if you just wanted to look at this data and analyze it in more depth in Excel or Google Sheets or whatever form you have for viewing data. So we definitely allow that access. But that is how you use this dashboard. If you folks, oh, also, if we're in that process of refreshing it, you can refresh that as well. Or you can also expand this list tab if you're just curious to see this in its larger format. Lastly, I'll note that on some displays and screens, this dashboard will appear differently based on your zoom settings and the screen resolution you have. So if that's the case and things are a little smushed and you don't have as big of a screen as I do, all of these boundaries are collapsible and extendable. If you hover your cursor over the edges of any of these, you'll be able to, maybe not the map itself, but this kind of data that gets a little bit smushed, you'll be able to correct it on your own screen if that's the case. So we found that out recently by looking across different screen resolutions. But if you have any questions, my email is linked at the bottom of this inlay. So feel free to email me about how to use this dashboard. If you have questions, concerns, water quality questions in general, this is the place that you can reach me. So I hope that you guys have a good day and stay tuned for more water quality updates.